and welcome to another episode of CA Listen Sparkling Conversations. This is brought to you by the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountant. My name is Yvonne Chan. I'm the co-chair of the Sustainability and Climate Change Committee and also the CFO of Singapore Management University. Today, we are very fortunate to have two esteemed guests with us. Ms. Sue Lloyd, the Vice Chair of ISSB, and Ms. Kuldip Gill, who is the Assistant Chief Executive of ACRA. Welcome to both of you for taking the time to be with us. And for Sue, welcome to the sunny Singapore. So can we have both of you say a quick hello to our audience?
Hello, thank you very much for the invitation today. Delighted to be in Singapore, particularly on the cusp of the beginning of the new mandatory climate disclosure reporting.
Yes. So thank you so much again to ISCA for inviting me on this amazing podcast, as you call it. And especially on a day like this where ISSB inaugural Preparer Readiness Program that was launched, that was today, and we launched ACRA's Sustainability Reporting Body of Knowledge today. And so This is a great time to come and talk about this.
Yeah, a great event indeed for everybody to come together. And for those who are less familiar, ISSB was formed in 2021 to develop high-quality and comprehensive global standards to guide baseline sustainability disclosures focused on the needs of investors and financial markets. So in June 2023, ISSB issued both S1 and S2 for general disclosure of sustainability-related financial information and climate-related disclosure respectively. Based on Standard & Poor's Global, as of 31st December 2024, 13 jurisdictions have adopted the standards and 22 more will be adopting in the near future. In the context of Singapore, SGX and ACRA have mandated climate reporting aligned to ISSB standard in phases for both listed and non-listed companies. So let us begin with our questions. So sustainability standardization has come a long way. Just 10 years ago, we know of this alphabet soup where there's a lot of disparate, fragmented standards all around the world. And both of you have seen and participate in this standardization. Can you share with us some of your experience in the last 2 years especially?
Sure. So certainly I think we've come a long way since the ISSB was formed in 2021 with the publication of our first two standards back at the end of June 2023. Feels like a long time ago now. S1 and S2, which introduces the general reporting requirements and the climate-specific disclosure requirements. A really big moment in improving the information that will be available to investors. Asking companies to provide information about the resilience and sustainability of their businesses to inform capital allocation decisions, and really importantly, bringing sustainability reporting into the mainstream alongside the financial statements so that investors have got the complete set of information they need to make informed investment decisions. And over the time since we've published those first two standards, we're just really delighted at the IFRS Foundation to see the pace of adoption around the world, the real uptake following IOSCO's endorsement of the standards soon after they were finalised. It's really heartening to see now more than 60% of global GDP in the jurisdictions behind the adoption of the standards. And so we're well on the way to actually getting this information out there in the markets to inform investor decision making.
Could it for Singapore?
I cannot agree more with Sue. When I first came onto this journey and to help ACRA with the sustainability reporting, the businesses were, sustainability is a real buzzword, so it's good to have. But, since the announcement in Singapore and last year, I've seen a huge transformation where it's now a business imperative rather than good to have. So that's one. Then there is this ACRA NUS study that we did last year, and we've seen encouraging progress by Singapore companies. And these are the larger listed companies, and there were 51 companies. And it's amazing, in the emission reporting stage, almost 100% disclose Scope 1 and Scope 2. Actually, 96% for Scope 1 and 100% for Scope 2. And then Scope 3 was about 59%. And then they also, 80% of these companies actually disclosed targets and so on. So I think
great.
we were very encouraged by that. But what I am most encouraged with as I move now to implementing the climate reporting roadmap is the ecosystem. The ecosystem has come together to help with whether it is capacity building, whether it is to do with providing more guidance around the standards and so on. So from the regulators to the professional bodies to the preparers and various other agencies, we kind of collaborated to do this.
Okay, so could it actually touch on a little bit of the next part that I wanted to know about? I mean, we've come a long way, and you mentioned ecosystem. Ecosystem is made up of many, many parties. So here we have a standard setter, here we have a regulator. What else can we do, or what are the gaps in this ecosystem that you feel may be a bit of a laggard and needs to step forward and should catch up to form a stronger ecosystem?
Well, I wouldn't describe anybody as laggards at the moment because I think everybody is, trying to do their best. But it's a huge change management process, and I think we have to be empathetic to the environment that people are in. Where I think there's still more to do, but I think it's starting to happen, but for sure there's still more for us to do as a collective, is certainly on capacity building and understanding the education around what the requirements are, but also not just the detailed requirements, the sort of philosophy that these are standards about understanding business resilience. This is information important for investors, but also information important for businesses. And there's a lot of training and understanding that's still needed. So that's why I'm delighted to be here in Singapore doing some of that training, and it's great to see your body of knowledge being published here in Singapore. I think it's exactly the sort of thing we need in the ecosystem. So I hope other jurisdictions look and learn and follow. I think the other areas where there's more to do, and it's in train, but there's more to do, and probably fitting I'm in this building as I say this, there's more scope for the accounting profession to build its knowledge and awareness, because I think the accounting profession's got a very, very important role to play here, because the accounting profession is well equipped to understand the controls, the processes, the rigour that's needed around this type of reporting that investors can rely on. But it's also requires sustainability knowledge, either to be developed within the profession or learning to work with people who can bring those skills to bear. Right. And so I think the other part of the ecosystem where we're seeing development, which is still needed but is related, is making sure we have the right people in organisations talking to the right people in organisations.
That's definitely.
Just the financial reporting people here and the sustainability people here. I don't think they knew each other before. They need to become best friends, because both of them have got skills that are really relevant to this journey, and it's when that sort of partnership works that we'll really get what we want here, which is this communication about sustainability risks and opportunities, but in a way that really resonates with business strategy, risk management and planning. And so I think there's more to do there. It's underway, but more to do.
Right.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more with Sue. As we are implementing the climate reporting roadmap, and we have been engaging with various stakeholders, and what has come across from them is, one, that there are opportunities to further enhance our capabilities. Now, when we went around the different the programs and the courses that we have on sustainability reporting, we found that it was quite basic. And hence we felt the need to come up with a body of knowledge, to have, for professionals, to have these specialized skills, and so that they can then go ahead and prepare, especially around greenhouse gas emissions measurement, climate scenario analysis, and climate-related financial impact assessment. We found that this was a bit lacking, and so we do believe that that was one of the opportunities that we looked at. The other bit was that the reporting landscape continues to evolve quite rapidly. And this is with the And that's when we need harmonization of the standards.
It's true.
And working with ISCA to come up with that illustrative financial statements on the GRI, and where we talked about it this morning in terms of ISSB with the other standards, the ESRS and so on. So I think that one is something that we are looking forward to, and so have to harmonization. The third part is, and this is real. This is real. That sustainability reporting is inherently resource intensive. And when you look at the down the supply chain or the value chain, the systems that you have to put up in terms of data collection, the measurement, and all of that. So it's a fair bit of investment that is required, and something that we are working with various agencies to help companies coming up with their very first ISSB reports in defraying some of the cost as they do on coming up with their first reports.
Yeah. So you're right. I think it's very new, and for accountants who've been in the industry for a long time, myself included, we're very used to doing IFRS standards. It's the day in, day out, And sustainability, really, it's something that we've never learned in school. So we have to learn on the go. And what's interesting about sustainability is going a lot more into the non-financial indicators. The metrics are not the kind of numbers that we're used to seeing, but now we have to measure a set of numbers that are very different. So the training, it's not enough to prepare us for all these. And of course, training also transcends many different levels. Yeah. It's not just at the top. You need to make sure the board members, the management at various levels, believe and see that it's not fluff, as what people sometimes call sustainability. It's fluff because they don't see the relevance, but very often it's part of the big strategies that everybody has to work on. So I think both of you also mentioned about the ecosystem of pulling in professional bodies as well. So representing ISCA, last year we issued the illustrative financial statements. I think that was a sustainability stance as well, because we're very used as to accountants having these illustrative financial statements that we follow. So for sustainability being new, and of course with both private, public sector, listed, non-listed having to do it, there is this need for a standard to follow or some illustrative. So it was quite timely that ISCA introduced that on the sustainability front, and definitely with the body of knowledge that's very useful. So, I am sure also ISSB has a lot of new initiative. Do you want to share a little bit about maybe a glimpse forward in the next couple of months or years? What are the things that we can expect to have more as guidance to help the whole ecosystem have this kind of benchmark to follow? Yeah.
Maybe I could start with some of the things we've already done and then peek into the future a little bit, because as we worked out last year, agreeing on what our work plan would be for the next 2 years, the board decided that in addition to looking at new things, so doing research on new topics, our number one priority would be making sure that we're doing what we can to support the high quality implementation and application of S1 and S2. And since then, that really has been a high priority for us. So putting a lot of materials on our website, which are freely available to everybody, on things like the comparison between the TCFD recommendations and our S2 climate standard, what's different and what's the same. Information about the level of alignment between the GRI, GHG emissions disclosures and ours. Information on how to navigate between the European requirements and ours, so very practical tools. And also a really important document that we published toward the end of last year was a document on guidance on how to identify what sustainability-related risks and opportunities you need to report on, and how to think about what is material information, so what you have to disclose. And that's all designed to be really additional guidance to complement the standards to support those using these new requirements, because so many are so new to sustainability reporting. Coming up soon, we have got some more materials coming out on how to look at the interaction between the GHG protocol and our standards on measuring greenhouse gas emissions, which we know isn't easy for anybody. And we're also looking at enhancing our industry-based guidance. So soon we're going to publish an exposure draft which proposes enhancements to our ISSB industry-based standards, which we think are really a practical tool to help companies to understand which sustainability-related risks and opportunities are important in their industries and what disclosures are decision useful. So those are the sorts of things that we're doing to try to really
That sounds
support
like a lot of
application.
things.
It's a lot of things. It's lots of guidance there on
Right,
our
right.
website, and I think people we do it quietly often, but it's there, so take a look. And a little ad break again for the ISSB standards. When that ED comes out, we really want everybody around the world to help us make sure those standards are relevant across the world to support
Right.
industry-specific
I mean,
information.
that I really appreciate, because ISSB could just issue standards, but the amount of engagement, and the engagement is not just like in a region, it's around the world. And every jurisdiction has their own standards, regulation. It must be so difficult to get this kind
We're
of
quite busy.
feedback and alignment. Yeah, I'm sure. And of course, Kuldip, I think Singapore has been very much on the fast train and following up with whatever ISSB issued. I think it's by no way easy to actually be at the forefront. So
I
do you want to share
absolutely,
that?
I can absolutely relate to that. And just our little SRBOK, for instance, we engage with 50 stakeholders.
Right.
And this includes your institutes of higher learning, your preparers, your training providers, and so on. And they came up with quite divergent views, and
Right.
it's
Right,
not
I'm
easy
sure.
to put it all down in
Right.
one and please everybody. So we did go through a process, and I know we do a lot of rah for the SRBOK, and the SRBOK is distinctive because it is modular and as a practical approach. With each knowledge area, including your specific objectives, your outcomes, and the resources that will be required for each area. Plus, of course, we've got case studies in this in this BOK. What will the next thing that we are working on is the BOK for the assurance side. So that is in
That'll be
progress.
interesting, yep.
And this is something that the climate auditors who are coming up, and they need to be trained for that. So that's one. The other bit is that, and you mentioned it, Yvonne, is about the very, very strong support from the professional bodies, especially as ACRA works with this professional, but ACRA cannot do it alone. And I think no one can do it alone. We do need to work with other agencies
Right.
and other bodies, and this is how we work together with ISCA and so on, and came out with that illustrative financial, because we found that there was a gap and people needed it, right?
Yes.
The companies, the listed companies in Singapore, more than 90% were already on GRI, for instance, right? So I think we came up with that, and that's a great thing. The other bit is, and you mentioned that, is the interoperability and of the standards, and we try and work with whoever that is willing to come, and work with us to bring that, making it easier for the preparers. And the last bit is funding.
Right.
And which I talked about. And we've got Sustainability Reporting Grant and the SME Sustainability Reporting Support Program to help companies, especially the SMEs, to defray their costs in coming up with these reports.
Yeah, that's something that I'm very familiar with
Okay.
from Enterprise Singapore. So I think in Singapore we are very fortunate because, there's enough money on the table
Yeah.
to actually help anybody who's starting and doing their first sustainability report to get training, highly subsidized training, a lot of materials and seminars. And of course, we also have ISSB coming here, and with your team coming here to do this readiness training. I think that's very useful. I think it goes very far to actually show the collaboration between the professional bodies, the regulators, the standard setters, and maybe we are lucky to be in a very small and condensed economy and the small ecosystem that we move very quickly. So I think that's kind of the advantage we have. So for those who are starting, and also as a wrap up to this podcast, for those who are starting off and it's struggling to get going, what words do you have as an encouragement to them?
Well, the first thing I'd say is when you use our standards, we knew that it was going to be a new way of reporting for many, and that even those who'd done sustainability reporting before hadn't done this sort of sustainability reporting, which is much more specific and linked to the financial statements. And so we've included a lot of mechanisms in our standards to help people on board. Right. So in a lot of places, for example, we tell people that they only need to provide the information which is based on data that they can get without undue cost and effort. And we have different approaches based on size of entities for some of our more complicated disclosures. And so there's things in the standard. Also transition reliefs, allowing extra time to start some of the reporting beyond climate, and of course jurisdictions including Singapore have built on that. So what I would say to people is don't be afraid to get started.
Right.
There's mechanisms in the standards designed to help people get going, because we really believe that it's hard to stand back and look at the standard and feel daunted by it. I think once you dive in and do what you can do with good disclosure about what improvements there are, that's the best way to move forward. And what I really hope that people see when they get involved in it is that it's really useful for them to manage their businesses. I mean, this is ultimately about having sustainable, resilient businesses with financing. Right. Communicating that to the market, but gathering information which isn't just for compliance purposes. It's really useful information to attract capital and really valuable information to run their business. And so I think people just need to really hold that thought and apply the standards with that mindset.
True.
So I'm going to extend to what Sue has been saying, and really it is to prioritize progress over perfection. And you have levers in the standard to say so, as what Sue has pointed out, right? So that would be the first thing. Just start. Right? Second is keep it simple and concise. When we were doing the study, the sustainability reports were over 100 pages, right? So keep it simple, just on material things that addresses the expectations or the needs of your readers and your stakeholders. And finally is to connect sustainability with the financials.
Yes.
I think that is important, and that will go a long way to not just your management, but your shareholders, your stakeholders, and your investors.
Yeah. Thank you both. I think we have heard and got a lot of insights on this topic. And as accountants, actually sustainability is a fantastic time to get involved in strategies, linking risks, opportunities, which sometimes finance people may have been disengaged from looking at the bigger picture going forward. But frankly, we really have to look at where the company is going, move forward, and like what both of you said, find somewhere to start. And sustainability reports need to be sustained. So don't think about like going for the perfection. Start somewhere, start small, and as you gain knowledge, it's a journey in itself. And as we embark on this journey, you learn more, you talk to other people, you reinforce each other's knowledge, and then everybody uplift the entire industry to move forward in the ways that I think standard setters, regulators, and it's good for the profession, because new jobs get created, new consultancies are available, new assurance are going to new areas that actually matters to the world. So with that, I'll thank both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.